a man who they say he murdered 3. Strange things have happened there. No stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
And welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris James. I meet folks from time to time who say they don't drink coffee. I don't know what to say. Are you sick? You hate yourself? Were you dropped on your head when you were little? Maybe that's the wrong things to say to people, but hey, I am known for doing that. I always tell the baristas, I want coffee in my coffee. I don't need room for additives. I like the way coffee tastes. Maybe the people that say they don't drink coffee never tried Organic Man Coffee Trike coffee. It's only the best in the universe. How do you know if I'm not telling the truth without giving it a try? You can drive over to 4501 McPherson and order a cup or 2 or 3, or go to organicmancoffeetrike.shop. Coffee keeps the werewolves away. Still sound like Terry Garr. Werewolves. I was listening to the Metatron the other night, and he said that he is going to use the following sentence from now on. He is going to say, in the year of our Lord, 2024. I have said words have power, and this phrase has some power behind it. It is the English version of Anno Domini, which is where we get the AD from. It's not after death, like a lot of people think, like I used to think. If this offends you, I have made my point. I have the power to put a hurt on you simply by saying, in the year of our Lord. I know the pain of hearing things you don't want to hear. It actually does feel like pain. I have been saying Merry Christmas a lot during every December, even days after the 25th. Most people smile, showing me that I made them feel good by putting words into their mind. Words with power. You can use them to make folks happy, or you can cause them to run away screaming. A Merry Christmas! How did that affect you? Think about it before you start ranting and send me a nasty gram. A Merry Christmas. It's 2 words. And yet a lot of people, they turn purple and the veins pop out on the sides of their skull and they start gnashing their teeth and foaming at the mouth just because you said Merry Christmas. Think about it. Words have power. I imagine a few of you are saying, who the heck is the Metatron? Raffaello Urbani has a podcast called The Metatron. He is a language professor from Italy who has now moved to the US. He goes into a lot of history, and his way of presenting things is really good. Some folks don't like what he has to say. You can see this in some of the comments, some of the real nasty comments he gets. A lot of these haters are folks who think they already know everything, and therefore they're unwilling to listen to anything new. He doesn't go into strange things very often, but he did a show about Vlad the Impaler that was spot on. Check him out and learn something. Check out his hair as well. He has a lot of hair. Vic Hermanson is still putting on a good podcast. Annabelle Lee gives color commentary as well as a whole host of other voices. I wonder if Annabelle Lee costumes are coming out this year. Well, next year. How many kids are going to show up dressed like her? And how will I know if just maybe it's her asking for candy? Trailer Trash Terrors is Vic's personal podcast, and Paranormal Rundown is a group show. Vic is joined by JJ, David Griffith, Father Mike, and sometimes his son, Deacon Josh. They'll take a random subject and see where they can take it. Orbs are being seen all over the country, in fact, all over the planet. To many people, they say they know what these are. I hear people declare that orbs are nothing but insects that have gotten too close to the lens for the camera to focus on properly, and so this makes a bug look like a glowing ball. Dust, some will say. Orbs are nothing but dust on the lens. The boys in the white lab coats just kind of mumble things about lens flare, and then they have to excuse themselves to the run to the bathroom. I've seen some orbs that do look like something is stuck to the lens. I've seen a few that look like a flashlight is being shown on the lens from an angle. Hoaxers should be beat about the head with a dead fish or a live badger. I've also seen a lot of images that look like a glowing ball of light with no way of figuring out what is causing them. I'm not the first, and I'm sure I won't be the last to look into these things. Here are a few thoughts on what people are seeing. Orbs or spheres of light are seen in different colors, running the entire color spectrum. Sometimes they show up in digital photography, but are unseen to the human eye, whereas on other occasions, people actually see the orbs. Once they see them, they wonder, what the heck was that? What am I seeing? Some people say that orbs are electromagnetic energy fields that contain angelic energy. They appear to us humans in the form of a ball of light. Angels are believed to use orbs as their vehicle to travel from place to place. Orbs are especially good shape for angelic energy because they don't have any corners to restrict energy flow. They can be used by the spirit world for their purposes, whatever those are. The circular shapes like orbs represent eternity, wholeness, unity, and spirituality, all concepts directly related to angelic missions. Angel orbs usually travel the universe at a high vibrational frequency, something humans can't perceive in our world. Once they've reached our world, they tend to slow down, allowing some folks to see them with the naked eye. According to some beliefs, angels travel to the earth using light rays, and orbs are the best vehicle for their energy. Orbs come in many colors, as in just about all of them. A blue orb is said to be for protection. If you are feeling exposed or you're about to go into some nasty, horrible place like jail or a haunted house or the IRS office, you can surround yourself with a blue field, which is supposed to be helped along by the angels of the blue light. A yellow orb is bringing wisdom from the folks making hard decisions. Pink orbs are filled with love and peace. There aren't very many pink orbs out there right now. Any white orbs are the purity and harmony of wholeness. Green orbs bring healing and prosperity. The funny thing about this color is it coincides with energy healing colors from ancient China and India. Red is for wise service. Purple is mercy and transformation. Seven colors that go along with the seven chakras. People say a silver orb has a spiritual message and gold is bringing unconditional love. A black orb is supposed to be from the dark side. Cue the Darth Vader music. A brown a brown orb denotes danger. Oh boy, laughing at my own things here. A brown orb denotes danger or maybe somebody is passing gas. Orange is forgiveness, but they don't say who is being forgiven, the person seeing it or somebody that they have issues with. Because our eyes don't function fast enough, we sometimes miss what the camera may have caught, leading to many orbs only being seen after the photo is taken. Some orbs may contain a demonic energy of fallen angels from the dark side. Once again, cue the Darth Vader music. It is recommended that you test the identity of a spirit you encounter to protect yourself from danger. Back in 1993, more or less, while visiting his mother in the hillside neighborhood, Ray was standing in the kitchen near the sink. His mother was across the room by the table, about 12 feet from him. Ray became aware of a glowing object floating in the air to his left. He turned and looked at it. The object was super bright white. It should have been painful to look at, but it didn't cause any physical effects. It looked to be about 6 inches high and 4 inches across, and it was hovering at about his head level. There was no sound associated with the object, and it didn't give off any physical manifestations. The best way to describe it was like a pill shaped object of pure bright energy. He stared at the object and then turned and looked at his mother to see if she could see it as well. When asked, she said that yes, indeed, she could see this thing. Ray turned back to stare at this floating light. It hung there in the air for about a minute before it silently popped out of sight. Neither of them could think of a way of why or what this object could have been. Within a year of this, Ray was at his folks' place once more. His mother was in the entryway. Ray was in the living room near their piano. They both saw this super bright light floating in the air once again. It was visible, but it gave off no sound or feelings of being there. In an effort to figure out what he and his mother had seen, Ray did some research. He found an article that said this might have been an angel that was simply visiting. Jophiel is an angel, also known as the light of God. This angel is depicted as both male or female, depending on the artist. Jophiel is an archangel under Michael. What they both saw is still a mystery. It's one of those things that some of us encounter that make life a bit more interesting. Fallen angels sometimes try to deceive people by appearing in the form of a beautiful light. Orbs from the good angels are supposed to radiate feelings of love, joy, and peace. If you feel afraid or upset in the presence of an orb, this may be a warning sign that the spirit inside isn't something that you want hanging around. This is the test you're supposed to use on an orb. How does it feel emotionally? Some folks believe orbs contain ghosts. Opinions differ on whether ghosts or human souls who appear like angels after they die, or whether ghosts are manifestations of demons. I've talked to a lot of people about seeing orbs, and I've gotten a lot of different explanations as to what people think they are, almost as many opinions as sightings. Orbs can vary in size, shape, and color, though they're generally small and round. Some believe orbs are the manifestation of a spirit's energy, and that the color of the orb indicates different types of spirits or messages from the spirit world, while others say the colors are way different from those of the angel spheres. Orbs are frequently reported at historical sites and old homes. Some people believe these locations retain energy from past events and the people who lived there, and this energy is allowing the orbs to appear. Then again, orbs can also appear in new buildings with no history of life, the universe, or, well, if you ask most people who are open to paranormal subjects, which comes to about 65%, they tend to believe orbs are spirits of some kind, be they angels, ghosts, or ascended masters. If you ask the boys in the white lab coats, or most producers of ghost hunting shows, you'll hear about bugs and dust and dirty lenses. For some odd reason, the Hollywood folks always have to drag in some skeptic to muddy the waters and upset people. Some orbs I've looked into have a face on them. You have to have a really good high pixel image. You zoom in and look very closely. A face can be seen in the orb. Sometimes it's just eyes and a mouth, while others have what look like a smiley face on them. The scientists who are not afraid to actually do science have speculated that orbs are balls of energy, kind of like mini forms of ball lightning. The energy gets compacted down to the size of a pea or maybe a coin. It is sometimes invisible to the human eye because it forms and vanishes so quickly. Only a high speed camera can catch it. To us, it might seem like a quick flash our minds can't decipher. Only by having the image in front of us for a few seconds can we perceive what is there. What could make this energy? Maybe this is left over from a person who passed on. Our bodies are filled with energy. Some have a lot more than others. Kids have way too much energy, while us older, well, oldish, those of us who remember watching the Apollo moon landing on TV, be it real or fake, are slowly running out of what makes us go. Probably something to do with the government. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only changed. The whole law of thermodynamics and all. Are there thermodynamic police agencies that enforce these laws? I'm just asking for a friend. When somebody runs out of energy completely and it's time to either reincarnate or move on to heaven, depending on if you led a good life or not, what becomes of that last little spark that kept the old ticker thumping along until we breathed our last? Should somebody be kept alive by drugs or machine, the energy is probably long gone before the plug is pulled. Those unwilling to pass until some preordained or wished for moment have to do something with that spark of energy. It has to go somewhere. While looking for ghosts at an old abandoned hospital, you know the one people keep sneaking into and then getting arrested. Let's try this again. Back in 2002, holy cow, was it 22 years ago? No wonder my body hurts so much. Back in 2002, the Laredo Paranormal Research Society hadn't been formed yet. Ishmael and a bunch of like minded folks went to the old hospital to have a look. This was with the owner's permission. He knew they were going to be there. They also had several police officers with them when they went. They did it the right way. This was 2 years before the Ghost Hunters was on TV. There was no real good example on how to investigate a possibly haunted location. The team grabbed what they thought would be needed and they headed to the old building. Tony had brought a cheap camera, the kind you used to buy, use, and then you had to send it in to have the film developed. Kids today have no idea how weird things used to be done. You had to choose your shots carefully because you only had 20 to 35 images to a roll. There was no way of knowing if you caught anything until days later when the photos were returned. And then, if the folks at the lab screwed up, you lost all your images. The not yet LPRS team were all stunned by the images that Tony caught of a green orb dropping from the ceiling and then speeding away down a third-floor hallway. The camera was set to open and quickly close the shutter at about 1/100th of a second. The orb had to have traveled the length of the hall in a very short time period. Being a green orb, the idea is this was some form of healing energy. By the time the team was there, the hospital had been closed for 3 years. I think it was 1999, the hospital moved to their new location on Saunders, right across the street from the cemeteries. A good choice for somebody who's looking out their window, wondering if they'll ever get out of the hospital alive. The old building was falling apart long before the place closed. The foundation was coming apart, causing building separation. Not a good thing in a 6-story building. The police department used the now empty building for training, and this was how the not yet LPRS wound up spending the night in the place. How long would healing energy stay in an abandoned building? Would it ever go away? These are questions hard to answer, having so many smart folks saying that ghosts don't exist. I know there are tons of intelligent people who believe in ghosts and spirits. The people holding the purse strings decide what is worthy of research, and this leads to a lot of questions going unanswered. I have been invited to talk to groups about ghosts in the days leading up to Halloween, only to suddenly be uninvited because the people find out that I actually believe in ghosts. To them, it's just a fun thing. We're just going to tell untrue ghost stories until the words true and real are mentioned, and then all of a sudden, they don't want me around. They want to tell ghost stories, but only as long as they're fiction. We do have to ask ourselves, what is a ghost? Are we seeing the spirits of those who are no longer living? Or is there something else, something a bit or a lot more sinister going on? Just because you feel good as you watch an orb moving about doesn't mean there's no danger. Those with bad intentions might be able to send out good feelings, like how a snake can mesmerize its prey. I know what the boys in the white say about this. It's right up there with how crime and craziness don't really increase during a full moon. The folks who tell us this do most of their work behind a desk. None of them are working in a hospital or in law enforcement. They sit behind a desk and they do all their research in the library, and then they come up with declarations about everything. There have been videos of orbs passing right through a person with no effect on them. According to the folks who should know, the lowest electrical charge a person can feel is 5 milliamps. Don't ask me what that is in English. I've had electrical engineers try to explain these things, only to wind up having to run away and change my name. In many cases, orbs are so small they might not hold enough charge to be perceived by a human. How they pass through a body would be determined by the vibrations. Keep in mind, atoms are not solid things. There are lots of empty spaces between the neutrons and the electrons. Scientists, the boys in the white, insist that this space is filled with an electron cloud. I think they just made that one up. I get the impression the boys in the white lab coats are just making things up to confuse us and to stop us from asking questions that they can't answer. It's kind of like politicians. They hate to have to keep their mouths shut, even if it means making up lies. The spaces between the nucleus and the electrons just might be used to pass one thing through another. As I was looking into all things bizarre in the world of science, I did some reading on the men who stare at goats, followed by the research being conducted right now by Huangyang Chen at the Suzhou University in China. Let's just say the world we live in isn't quite as solid as we are led to believe. Of course, the government tells us we can't possibly do any of the things they are at this very moment trying to do. It's right up there with the flying cars that I was promised when I was a teenager. It's impossible, they say, while they're working on their own flying cars. I am theorizing that an orb traveling in a certain vibration would pass through a human without ever being detected. Enough said about such things. Those huge scientific papers I read are all making my head hurt. Orbs are also believed to be connected to UFOs. The idea being a flying saucer sends out a drone that can sneak around and look at us humans with less possibility of being seen or shot down. Think of it like an energy drone. Why does it glow? Well, how about the energy being used for fuel to make the thing function uh, shows up as light when exposed to our atmosphere? Maybe it's reflecting light we can't normally see. Maybe the aliens don't realize that they're glowing in the dark. Or maybe they do, and it's all part of some kind of a weird experiment. Seeing as we don't really understand a lot about UFOs, the idea of orbs being connected is not that far out. It's just one more anomaly added to an already huge pile. People report seeing orbs in the sky before or after seeing some kind of a flying craft. Sometimes the orbs are seen coming from a flying saucer or going into it. Those lights people report seeing that move in unconventional ways, performing stunts that would kill any human pilots, have been described as being orbs. In many cases, the lights are small, about the size of a basketball. Others might be gigundous, since they seem to be hundreds of miles away and yet visible as being the size of a dime or so. There's no size limit when dealing with orbs. It's round, it glows, it might be an orb. Government officials, soldiers, and sailors have spotted mysterious metallic orbs flying all around the world, in addition to many other types of unidentified flying objects. According to the first public meeting of NASA's UFO Independent Study Team, yes, NASA still stands for never a straight answer. I'm not holding my breath nor believing anything coming from these people. The so called civilian space agency is run by the military. During a meeting, speakers emphasized the need to collect more high quality UFO data and lamented the stigma surrounding this topic. Well, gee, whose fault is it there's a stigma? Which they said makes it less likely for people to report flying saucers. Speakers noted members of NASA's UFO study team have been harassed as a result of their working in the field. Luis Elizondo is very much in favor of their new moniker, the UAP. I read his book, Imminent. It is quite well written and it gives a lot of behind the scenes story on how those folks that all work for us are keeping secrets about UFOs not only from us, but our elected officials that are supposed to be keeping an eye on things for us. The government of the people and for the people and all that has been shanghaied by the elites who believe they are far more intelligent than us and they have a superior decision making ability. They roll out the old War of the Worlds radio show saying that millions of listeners were driven to near madness by Orson Welles and his radio show. Only about 6 million people heard the show, and most knew it was a dramatization. Only a few of those were running around yelling, "The aliens have landed." It's not like what they show in the movies. It's not like what the government tells us. And NASA and the government, not our elected folks, but the ones we never see or we don't know anything about, those people, use this as a legitimate reason to keep us all in the dark about everything from other worlds. We can't handle the truth. Okay, wrong movie, but still, they believe, or at least they pretend, that we are being lied to for our own good. It is really disheartening to hear of the harassment that our panelists have faced online, all because they're studying this topic, said Nikki Fox, Associate Administrator for NASA's Science Mission Directorate. While waving a flag and telling us they're really looking into UFOs this time, the government has yet to put in place any kind of a system for you and I to report our sightings. There is no 1-800 report a UFO. It's all just for the military. Why is that, do you suppose? NASA's UFO study team was convened in 2022 with the mission of investigating the origin and the nature of UFOs with rigorous scientific standards using mostly unclassified data. Pay no attention to the thousands of classified reports. All the classified data is being held in an iron fist by the folks who believe we're too delicate to know. They tell us NASA and other agencies, such as the Pentagon, use the term UAP instead of the more widely known UFO, in part to expand the scope of these studies beyond the aerial domain. To include unexplained phenomena in the oceans, space, and on the ground. I say that this is all more 1984 nonsense. I think they are so dedicated to never admitting UFOs are real, they had to change the name just to be able to talk about them. Perhaps they all swore an oath to never say UFOs are real. And if they do say it, they die or something. The UFO team is made up of 16 members with a wide range of backgrounds, including a NASA astronaut, an oceanographer, and a Princeton astrophysicist who serves as the chair of the team. The meetings include a presentation by Sean Kirkpatrick, director of the government loves these long names, the Department of Defense's All Domain Anomaly Research Office, AARO for short, who shared reports of unexplained metallic orbs seen at various locations around our planet. Kirkpatrick described an image of an orb taken by a military MQ-9 Reaper drone during a routine mission in the Middle East in 2022. He said, "This is a typical example of the things that we have seen the most. We see these all over the world, and we see these making very interesting maneuvers. It looked like a It looked like that thing from the movie, Phantasm, but without the spiky things sticking out the front." The folks in charge keep saying they need more time to look into the UFOs. A time might mean anywhere from 10 years to 100. Just look at the JFK evidence. Documents on the murder of the 35th president are still being kept secret to protect national security. This flies in the face of their lone gunman story. If Oswald was the guy that did it, what possible government secrets could be revealed by handing over the entire file? I'm getting off the subject of orbs, aren't I? Kirkpatrick shared newly released footage of UFOs spotted during an aircraft training mission in the western United States that have been previously identified as a commercial airplane. He noted that AARO receives an average of 50 to 100 reports per month. Sometimes the sightings spike during weird events like that Chinese weather balloon or the Starlink launches. Yes, I get reports of Starlink once in a while too. A small orb that can outrun or outmaneuver any of our best technology. I have to ask, what if this isn't otherworldly technology, but other dimension? Something that slipped through a portal for reasons only the creators that sent them would understand. The Bet's sphere has never been properly explained. The Navy did get their hands on it, only to declare that it was just a round object. They also tried their best to keep it. Some scientists from Florida did get the sphere, and then they refused to give it back. It took legal action, and once it was returned to the Betts family, they were convinced that the sphere they got was not the one they'd handed over. Those pesky boys in the white lab coats stole their property. People have reported seeing strange orange orbs in the sky in just about every state, probably every country in the world. Ishmael spotted several north of Laredo. They would blink on and off and then move farther apart. This went on for about an hour. These lights were only visible using night vision goggles. Marfa, Texas began attracting attention, and people were showing up to witness their unexplained orbs of light, seen in an area south of town. For more than 135 years, mysterious glowing orbs have been appearing on the ground and in the sky. The Marfa lights have become known as an otherworldly wonder. Thousands of visitors come from all over to watch and wonder. The LPRS went to investigate these lights. People have been seeing the ghost lights of the Apache lights for hundreds of years now. There are those who will say those are just lights from cars on Route 67. Ah, but Route 67 wasn't around for as long as the lights have been. The first written mention of the lights occurred in 1883 when ranch hand Robert Ellison reported seeing the lights while herding cattle on the Mitchell Flats east of Marfa. He assumed the lights were campfires of Apache gathered in the dark. The Apache, who had been in the area for years before any ranchers were there, thought these lights were stars that had fallen from the sky. Other Indian tales are that the lights are the spirit of Chief Chinati, who the Chinati mountain range is named for, which is to the southwest of Marfa. During World War II, pilots flying from nearby Midland Airfield tried in vain to discover the source of these lights. They were unable to come to any kind of a conclusion. It wasn't long before somebody tried to suggest that everybody was just seeing lights that was actually reflection of the moon on something reflective. This would explain the lights, except for the fact that the lights are seen when it's a new moon. The sky is completely dark, and yet there are the lights. The Foo Fighters was another kind of weird orbs seen by all sides during World War II. The US and British thought that they were Nazi secret weapons. The German fighters thought they were American or British secret weapons. Even Japanese pilots were seeing them, thinking this was some kind of a weird new gadget that the US was using against them. It wasn't until after the war that they discovered that everybody was seeing these things. The lights have become such a part of the region, the Marfa High School built a viewing area on the side of Highway 90, just east of town. In November 2011, the LPRS showed up in Marfa to have a look and to investigate the lights. Setting up in the viewing area, the team deployed cameras and night vision equipment and recorders and a few of the investigative tools just to try to get some idea of what these lights might be. The lights did not disappoint, showing up and dazzling all the researchers. A laser pointer was aimed at one of these lights and it simply vanished. They took an aim at the next light and the same thing happened. The light would disappear. In some instances, a bright light could be seen with the naked eye, but when the night vision camera was used, a second and sometimes third light could be seen right next to the first one. These ghost lights flicker like a candle or a flame, giving them a pulsating look while observed in the Mitchell Flats. Car lights would have a flickering effect if viewed through trees, but they don't pulse like the Marfa lights. As time goes by, people come up with new and exciting explanations that only sound good until you ask a few questions. Then the explanations fall apart. There are those that will tell you the Marfa lights are nothing more than foxfire, also known as swamp gas. Gee, where have we heard swamp gas before as a possible explanation? This explanation sounds really good until you consider the fact that Marfa lights are seen in the desert, hundreds of miles from the nearest swamp. It's good to know the LPRS were the first investigators to try contacting the lights using a laser pointer. No conclusions were reached by the LPRS, but they did their best to at least document their experiences. Ishmael Quire said, "We really don't know what they are. What we do know is with the flickering of a laser, they will turn off with an intelligence, or they will diffuse themselves to avoid the laser. What in the laser experiment made it more of a mystery and less of a natural phenomenon? If it was just foxfire or reflection from a mountain, why would it disappear?" On their second trip to Marfa, all the investigators were focused on the lights moving about the southeast. One of the team was scanning around to be sure that nothing got missed. Turning to the west, he spotted a glowing orb moving around the power lines. He yelled for everybody to turn and have a look. As all the LPRS members turned their cameras and their scopes to the west, the orb moved behind a power pole, like it was hiding from them. When Ishmael aimed a laser light at the orb, it began sparking and flashed. Looked like a small explosion, and then it dimmed down to nothing. When the laser beam was turned off, the glowing orb remanifested into its original size. A train began to pass on the tracks to the north of the viewing area, and the orb dimmed and then blinked out. The train seemed to cause the orb to simply go somewhere else. Actor James Dean was obsessed with the lights, and he kept a telescope in his Marfa hotel room during filming of the movie Giant back in 1956. On clear nights as the sun sets, people from all over the world descend on the roadside Marfa Lights viewing area near that small town, and they stare out across the desert scrub towards the Chinati Mountains in hopes of catching a glimpse of this bizarre phenomenon. There's no way to predict when or where the lights will appear, but the glowing orbs generally form about 30 times a year, usually just after sunset or just before sunrise. Some of these orbs are roughly the size of a basketball, and they dart wildly across the desert, or they hover in one place and pulsate, growing a little larger and then shrinking a little smaller. Others say the glowing spheres appear in various colors and they twinkle in the distance. They may be red, blue, yellow, or white. Often a second orb will appear to split or merge or float and melt into one of the others. The supernatural lights are believed to be everything from UFOs to lost ghosts of Spanish conquistadors or even car headlights. Nobody is quite sure what they are. The boys in the white lab coats are fond of saying they're just car lights, like the ones that we used to see back in the 1800s. Some people have actually latched onto this nonsense because it makes them believe that there are no unexplained things in the world. James Bunnell is a retired NASA aerospace engineer who grew up in Marfa. He went to high school there. He returned home in 2000. He has witnessed the lights on many occasions. During the next several years, Bunnell had set out scientific mission to investigate and try to solve the mystery lights. He installed wide spectrum of infrared cameras on the ranches in and around where the orbs have been seen. When the images were examined, the engineer could find no pattern to the light and no explanations. Bunnell has written 4 books about the mystery lights, and he has a few theories involving how the Earth's underground friction produces an electromagnetic light show above the Marfa Plains. The thing about theories is they are just kind of an educated guess. I know his theories are based on his training and experience, and there are a few people with his abilities studying the orbs, but it's still just a guess. Seeing as orbs, ghost lights, and spheres are seen all over the world, why do the Marfa lights show up in just this one location for so many years? Do the lights stay in the area, or do they maybe fly from Marfa and buzz other people in other places and other locations? I wonder if maybe the Paisano Pass area might be home to a portal to some other dimension. The lights come from there to here for unknown reasons. I know you're not supposed to try to explain one mystery by shoving another in its place, but the people that say that are the same ones that don't believe in anything paranormal. If they can't recreate it in a lab, it doesn't exist, like gravity. The LPRS accidentally discovered a set of ghost lights here in Laredo. A team was out east looking for UFOs when they spotted a set of lights on the horizon. There were 9 or 10 lights in a row, maybe 3 or 4 miles away. Unlike the Marfa lights, these Laredo lights didn't move around. The orbs just sat along the horizon, a few feet off the ground. By zooming in on the images, you can see they don't touch the ground. Also, the ground dips down from one end of the line to the other, but the lights are in a straight line. The lights look to be in a pattern. The distance gets wider and then narrower every other light, like the groups of two. I've worked that area on many occasions. There's nothing out there but mesquite, trees, cacti, cows, and coyotes. Maybe a couple hundred rattlesnakes. There's no oil field equipment, no ranch buildings. About the only thing out there that was not made by nature are several old World War II firing ranges built back in 1943. There are 5 or 6 ranges used by the airmen as they trained to become B 17 crewmen. Nothing that might be seen as a set of glowing orbs. The LPRS would visit this location on many nights, bringing visitors out so they could see them as well. When a dispute arose between 2 landowners, the road was closed, and today we don't know if the lights are still out there or not. You can pay a small fee and ride your bike out there, but only in the daytime. South of town, almost into Zapata County, is a bunch of ranches where orbs have been seen as well. One was at about 10 p.m. I was sitting in my unit when I saw a light coming towards me. It looked like somebody was walking the fence line with a flashlight. It got to the edge of the highway, then turned and headed south. The light went right through a deer fence without even slowing down. There were no footprints and nothing that it could have caused the light. And yet I saw it with my own eyes. East from that site, we were working a ranch looking for brushwalkers late at night. One of the guys called and said he spotted a couple of lights moving along the fence, and they were heading my way. I got into position and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. When it had been way too long, we moved into the area where the lights had been seen. There were no tracks. The orbs had been seen only a few feet in front of the agent, following the fence, but we don't know where they went or where they had come from. Just glowing orbs in the dark. I've heard the naysayers tell people orbs are earthquake lights, glowing balls that form as the tectonic plates slide over each other. Webb County has had no earthquakes ever, and the same goes for Marfa. On a 4 mile rural road nicknamed the Devil's Promenade, just off Route 66 in the northeast corner of Oklahoma, people report seeing paranormal orbs. These lights have been seen for the last 100 years. People call them the Hornet Spook Lights. The orbs are about the size of basketballs. Even the Army Corps of Engineers have concluded that these are mysterious lights of unknown origin. The orbs are seen spinning and bobbing up and down like a lantern held by a dancing ghost. It is unusual, correction, it is usually seen standing near the Oklahoma border looking to the west. The Hornet spook lights have been spotted in the corners of Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma, where the 3 states' borders meet. A hornet is a small town close to the area, and so the orbs were named after the town. Some local residents have been known to document any sightings that they hear about. As reports come in, they write it down and then they study the details. So far, no patterns have been found. The orbs have been seen as the size of an egg, all the way up to the size of a basketball. They sometimes just sit in one place, or they zip along the ground heading to some unknown location for their own purposes. The color ranges from purple to yellow, and all colors in between. One man swore that the orb passed so close he could feel heat coming from it. A woman saw an orb burst like a bubble, scattering sparks in all directions. The local Indians have seen the orbs for years. Families are known to drive to a certain location to sit and watch for the lights. One family was sitting in their car waiting for the orbs to appear. An orb did show up. It was moving towards them. It kept getting closer until it passed right through the windshield. The orb vanished as it passed over the dashboard. Nobody heard any sound coming from it, and it was not giving off any heat. So many people have ventured out to look for the spook lights that most kids are no longer afraid of them. It has never been connected to any kind of a bad occurrence. A lot of stories are being circulated as to the origins of the Hornet spook lights. Anything from a warrior killed in battle to murder victims trying to find their attackers. The white coat mob have declared the lights are car headlights, and that's that. I imagine in labs all over the country, scientists have a file filled with explanations for unknown sightings. They elect somebody to reach in and grab an explanation, and then they use it no matter how stupid or unexplained the explanation might be, as long as it is not paranormal. As long as it doesn't say it's a ghost, they're good with that. Swamp gas, car headlights, stars, meteorites, people with flashlights. In Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where Rick and Marty come from, they have an orb known as the Paulding Light. Just off Highway 45 on Robbins Road, people have seen this light on many nights, whether it's hot and muggy or cold and dry. People see the orb in many colors as well. The orb always maintains the same size, sitting in one place for minutes and then blinking out. The light are pretty consistent. They show up in the same area, and they can be seen any time after sundown, all the way up until sunup. People have managed to take photos of the orb. The problem with any images of an orb is they just look like a light. The naysayers rush out and say that it's just somebody holding a flashlight. Local folklore has several different explanations for the orbs. The most popular being it's the ghost of a railroad brakeman who was killed in a train disaster, and he appears nightly to hold up his lantern to warn off future victims. Mystery lights are not unique to the US, but they're seen in all parts of the world. The Hesdalen lights appear both day and night, and they seem to float through and above the valley. They're usually bright white, yellow, red, and they can appear above or below the horizon. The duration of the phenomena may be a few seconds to well over an hour. Sometimes the lights move with enormous speed. At other times, they seem to just slowly drift along. On yet other occasions, they just hover in midair. Unusual lights have been reported in the Hesdalen Valley and the surrounding region since the 1930s. The highest activity occurred between December 1981 and mid 1984, during which the lights were observed 15 to 20 times a week. As word spread, more folks showed up to see the orbs and to study them. Since 1983, the Project Hesdalen, initiated by the UFO Norg and the UFO Sverg, have attempted to investigate these lights. The project was active as field investigations during 1983 to 85. A group of students, engineers, and journalists collaborated as the Triangle Project in 1997 and 98 to record the lights in a pyramid shape that was bouncing up and down. 1998, the Hesdelin Automatic Measurement Station was set up in the valley to record and register the appearance of the lights. Unlike many ghost lights, the Hesdelin lights began to diminish around 2010, dropping to about 10 to 20 sightings a year. In the woods, far from other people, there have been reports of an orange orb drifting along a few feet off the ground. Sometimes this orb comes to a stop, and then it grows. It gets up to about 6 to 8 feet across. As the witnesses watched from a hiding place, the center of the orb began to gyrate and something stepped out. The witness has said it looked like a Bigfoot or a dogman, or on occasion it was a lizard man. At this point, the witness usually did their best to sneak away, hoping that the thing from the orb would not see them looking at it. Now, I don't know if these stories are true or not, but I've heard this same basic tale from several different people. I've said it a few times now. If the folks would admit they don't know what something is, they don't have to answer every question, you know. They could get busy actually looking into these mysteries instead of trying to explain them away. Science has moved from looking into unknown mysteries to propping up ideas made by the old fogies that have agendas to maintain. If some college dean wrote a book saying that ghost lights are simply caused by nature, that person is going to take steps to keep his or her ideas safe. When ideas are proven wrong and book sales dry up, I've seen kids going to college that have to buy a book written by somebody in power that is not only wrong, but never used in any classes. Some of these books cost hundreds of dollars and are needed not to learn information, but to keep the professors in the green. Ghost lights, spook lights, mystery orbs, UFO lights. I don't know what these are. Nobody really does. The mystery is what makes life interesting. Rick and Marty Lagina are about to make another showing on TV. I hope they find something to help pay off the millions of dollars spent trying to solve the money pit. At the same time, I don't want the mystery solved. The minute they dig up the Ark of the Covenant or the Templars' golden treasure or the Mayans' secreted piles of gold, it's no longer going to be interesting. As long as we don't know, it's wow. The second we know the answers, it's like, gotta find something else to look into. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. If you did, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell people you don't even know that they should be listening to Strange Things with Chris James. And remember, there's no such thing as too much coffee. Till next Saturday, this is Chris James for Strange Things.
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man who they say he murdered 3? Strange things have happened there. No stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.